Hello again from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera, where today we're going to be having a look at another Konica rangefinder camera. In this case, it's one of the really hard to find Konicas, one which I don't often come across in good condition, and one which you don't see so much for sale around in working condition. And it's the Konica Auto S 1.6. Now, if you're interested in purchasing this Konica or another vintage Japanese camera, I sell these in my eBay and Etsy stores. Please check the description below the video for links to my stores. So getting back to our Konica here, the Auto S 1.6 was produced in the mid-1960s at a time when Japanese camera companies were competing to produce cameras with faster lenses. The faster lenses were necessary because at the time high-speed films were not available yet. And if you wanted to shoot indoors or in low-light situations without a flash, you needed a faster lens. The three most popular cameras of the time, fixed lens rangefinder cameras, were the Yashica Lynx 14 with its 45mm f1.4 lens, the Mamiya Super Deluxe with its 45mm f1.5 lens, and of course the Konica Auto S 1.6 with a 45mm f1.6 lens. Though the Konica had the slowest lens of the three, it was far and away the best camera. There's really no competition at all between the S 1.6 and the Super Deluxe and Lynx 14. The Konica S 1.6 is better in just about every possible way. First, the lenses on the Lynx 14 and the Mamiya Super Deluxe are really large, bulky, and heavy. And though they are good performers, their size makes it difficult to use the camera well because the lens blocks part of the view from the viewfinder. If you're shooting at people at a reasonably close distance, you won't be able to see their feet so easily. It'll be in the image, but you have to be very careful about how you frame and compose your subject when you're shooting with one of these cameras. And next, the really large lenses in these cameras required larger shutters, and these larger shutters are very sticky and unreliable. It's very hard that I find a Lynx 14 or Mamiya Super Deluxe which does not have a stuck or gummed up shutter. And repairing the shutters is very difficult and time consuming. In most cases, if I find one of these cameras with a stuck shutter, I won't even bother to fix it because I can't really make up for the time it takes to get these shutters cleaned up and get the camera going again. Whereas the Auto S 1.6 uses the same shutter which came in S2 and a couple of their other cameras. It's very easy and simple to work on, and it's much more reliable. Another feature which is much better on the S 1.6 is it uses the same viewfinder and focusing system as the Konica 3A. It has a really large and bright viewfinder which corrects for parallax and frame size. So though you may not know it, when you are using a rangefinder camera and you're focusing on subjects at different distances, the actual size of the image varies. And the Konica rangefinder cameras can compensate for this. So they'll give you the most accurate composition and focus of a rangefinder camera. The system was not available in the Lynx or Mamiya Super Deluxe. And lastly, the metering system. The Lynx 14 and Mamiya Super Deluxe both had really good CDS light meters which were battery powered. When they work, they work quite well. The only problem is they almost never work. The reason this is so is because these cameras all used MR9 mercury batteries, which emit gas inside the camera. And this gas quickly corrodes the wiring and electronics on the inside. The wiring used in the Yashica and Mamiya cameras is quite thin, and it doesn't take long before the gases completely corrode the wiring to the point that the solder connections come apart. The S 1.6, as you notice, it has a plastic battery cap, maybe you can notice, not the metal caps used like on the Yashica and Mamiya cameras. And it's well vented to allow the gases to come out. So the odds of the meter and wiring being damaged by battery gases is smaller in the S 1.6 than the Mamiya or the Yashica. And it makes it a more reliable camera. And another interesting thing, which makes the Konica better is that it has an automatic mode. Now, the Lynx 14 and Mamiya Super Deluxe are full manual only cameras. They have coupled meters, and so you choose the aperture and shutter speed you like until you match the needle in the center of the meter. Whereas with the Konica Auto S 1.6, you choose the shutter speed you like, and then the camera will choose or recommend an aperture setting. This is a really good system because it allows you to get images without blur. So if you can hold a camera steady at 30th of a second or a 60th of a second without getting blur, you can choose these shutter speeds and simply shoot, and the camera will select the best aperture setting, and you'll get an image without blur. The Aperture Priority cameras probably offer a little bit more creative control than the Shutter Priority cameras, but if you choose a small aperture, you may get a really low shutter speed, and your image will end up blurred. And it's kind of a trade-off. You know, you can get more depth of field with the Aperture Priority camera, but it's not much of a benefit when the image is blurred. So for this reason, the Shutter Priority cameras are really good for general photography. We'll take a quick look at the layout of the camera and the different functions, starting at the top. At the top here, of course, we have the shutter winding and charging lever, the shutter button. You can use a regular cable release to operate the shutter. Here we have the meter window, where you can look to test the battery and also to see which aperture is being selected by the camera. A hot shoe for the flash. Now, other cameras at the time did not have a hot shoe for the flash. You had to use a flash with a PC cable. You can still use a PC cable on the 1.6. You can see the socket here on the front. And of course, on the top we have the film rewind knob. On the lens itself, we have the shutter speed selection ring, the aperture selector ring, and we have the self-timer. Once again, I don't recommend using self-timers on old rangefinder cameras. These aren't very reliable, and you can end up with a really jammed and unusable camera if the self-timer decides to go out. I always check the self-timers on cameras I sell, and they work when I sell them, but I can't really guarantee how long they're going to work because they can go at any time. The shutters are designed to shoot for thousands and thousands of cycles. The self-timers are not. On the bottom of the lens, we have the selector, which allows you to select the film speed that you're shooting inside the camera. And in Auto S 1.6, it goes up to ISO 400, which was pretty much the fastest which was available at the time. The bottom of the camera, of course, we have the film rewind release button, the battery check switch, and when you push the switch on the bottom, it will cause the needle to jump on the top, showing that the battery is charged. To open the film door, you pull on the film rewind knob and it pops open. To adjust the rangefinder, for the horizontal adjustment, there's a small cap located by the viewfinder window on the back. Just unscrew this with a pair of tweezers or something, and underneath you'll find the adjustment screw. On the top, you can slide off this cover over the flash shoe, and that will give you an access hole, which allows you to adjust the vertical adjustment in the rangefinder. So that's about it for my description of the Konica S 1.6. I have this one listed for sale on Etsy right now, and I'll have it listed on eBay soon if no one buys it on Etsy quite quickly. It's a really good camera, and if you want a really nice good shooting camera from the mid-1960s, the Auto S 1.6 is a really good choice. If you have one of these cameras which works, hold on to it. They're really hard to find, and they're really great cameras. And if you want one, if I don't have one, good luck. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And once again, please check out my stores if you're looking for a vintage Japanese camera. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.